After I fell on hard times, my daughter said I could stay as long as it takes. Her husband drew a line of tape across the kitchen floor and said, "Don't cross this unless you're cooking or cleaning." When I forgot to turn off the light one night, I woke up to find my mattress on the front porch. I sat there watching their family eat breakfast without me. Then I opened the email I'd been drafting for weeks and hit send. I used to think that if you worked hard, stayed loyal to your family, and didn't make too much noise, you'd be okay. Not rich, not famous. But okay. That's what I believed for most of my life. I'm 62. I worked warehouse jobs most of my adult years, loading trucks, organizing pallets, cleaning up spills, doing whatever needed doing. For a while, I felt proud of that. I paid off my car. I paid off my house. I never hit my kid. I stayed faithful to my wife even when things got hard. But when my wife, Marlene, passed 3 years ago, I stopped moving right. It wasn't like I collapsed overnight. Just small things. I'd go grocery shopping and forget what I came for. I'd get angry easier. I'd drive all the way to the warehouse and just sit in the parking lot, thinking about nothing. One morning I didn't show up for a shift. Then another. After that, they cut my hours. A few months later, I came in with a bit of whiskey still on my breath. My manager pulled me aside and said, "You can't keep doing this, Jerry." He was right. But it didn't matter. I got fired 2 days later. My savings dried up faster than I expected. I thought Social Security would stretch farther. I tried to sell the house, but the market dipped. Everything just fell apart. I applied for loans for state help. Got denied. Every time. That's when Rachel, my daughter, said I could stay with them as long as it takes. She said it over the phone, soft voice, like she was doing me a favor. I moved into their guest room in late October. I brought one duffel bag and a small TV. I didn't want to be a problem. For the first few days, things were quiet. Rachel made me coffee one morning. The kids, my grandkids, were polite but distant. Her husband, Drew, didn't talk much. He just watched. Then one morning, I went into the kitchen and saw a piece of blue painter's tape across the floor. I thought it was for the kids at first. But Drew was standing there, arms crossed. He pointed. "This line is here for a reason. You stay on that side unless you're cleaning or making food. That's it." I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. Rachel was behind him. She didn't say anything. She wouldn't look at me. After that, I kept to myself. I did the dishes every night, cleaned the bathroom twice a week, took out the trash without being asked. I made dinner most nights. Meatloaf, chili, pasta, whatever was cheap. I didn't use their living room unless they were out. I wore headphones in my room. I applied for jobs on an old laptop Rachel let me borrow. But Drew started watching me closer. If I left a light on, he'd mention it at dinner. If I used the laundry after 8 p.m., he'd knock on my door. One time I forgot to wipe crumbs off the counter and found a post-it the next morning, "Respect our space." Then came the night with the light. I had trouble sleeping, so I got up around 1 a.m. to get some water. I guess I left the kitchen light on. I didn't mean to, just forgot. In the morning, I woke up cold. My room felt drafty. I looked around and realized something was off. Then I heard birds chirping. I sat up. I was outside, on my mattress, on the front porch. My duffel bag was at my feet. The front door was closed. I stood up, walked to the window and looked in. They were all eating breakfast. Pancakes, orange juice. I saw Rachel laughing at something one of the kids said. Nobody looked my way. I knocked on the glass. Nothing. Knocked again, louder. Drew finally came to the door, opened it just enough. "You left the light on again," he said. I stared at him. "You put me outside?" He didn't answer. Just closed the door. I sat back down on the porch. Cold, quiet. Just sat there. Then I pulled out my laptop. Opened the email I'd been drafting for weeks. I added one line, "I've respected your rules. You haven't respected me." Then I hit send. It went to Rachel. But I also CC'd her boss. And the regional VP. Because what they didn't know was this: Rachel works for the same bank that turned me down for a personal loan in February. She never told me she worked there. But I found out by accident, saw her name on a letter on the home printer. She had access to accounts. And I found something else too. An internal note she printed by mistake. It had my name on it. "Do not approve. Unstable applicant. Known risk." It had been flagged by her login. She didn't just watch me fall. She helped push me. And that's when I realized I wasn't just a burden to them. I was a problem they wanted to erase. I stayed on the porch that morning longer than I care to admit. I couldn't make sense of it, how my own daughter, the kid I walked to school every morning, the one I taught to ride a bike in the church parking lot, could do this to me. She didn't come out to talk. Not even once. Drew opened the door a few times to let the dog out. Looked right past me like I was some neighbor's trash that blew onto their porch. Around noon, I got a reply to the email. It was short. From her boss, Jerry, I've received your message and take this seriously. I'll be in contact shortly. About an hour later, Rachel finally came out. She closed the door behind her and sat on the step next to me. Not close, far enough I could tell it wasn't for comfort. You shouldn't have done that, she said. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. You don't understand how hard this has been on us, she said. You think it's easy having someone live in your house? You think we don't have problems too? I finally spoke. You flagged me. She blinked. What? I saw the note. Printed with your name on it. You used your job to block my loan. My only shot at staying in my house. She didn't deny it. You weren't thinking straight, she said quietly. You were drinking. You weren't working. I didn't want you doing something dumb. So you sabotaged me? I protected you. I stood up. My knees hurt, but I didn't care. No, Rachel. You protected your comfort. You didn't want to deal with me crashing at your place. You didn't want your husband mad at you. So you made sure I couldn't get back on my feet. She looked down. Didn't say anything else. That afternoon, I got a call from the bank. Not her boss, someone higher. Corporate. They asked questions. A lot of them. How I found the document. If I'd spoken to Rachel. What else I knew. I told them the truth. Every word. They thanked me, said they'd look into it. That evening, the house was tense. Rachel didn't say anything to me. Drew gave me this tight-lipped fake smile. The kids kept asking why I was outside all day. I stayed out there again that night. Slept on the porch like a dog. The front door stayed locked. The next morning, Drew told me it was time to go. You've caused enough disruption, he said. We're not running a shelter. I packed my things in silence. As I zipped my bag, Rachel came to the door. She had her phone in her hand. They're doing an internal review. I might get suspended. You happy? I looked at her one last time. No, I'm not happy. I'm tired. And I'm ashamed I ever thought you'd treat me like family. I walked down the driveway with my mattress rolled up and tied with duct tape. Caught the city bus to a motel. I spent 3 days there not knowing what the hell I was going to do. Then I got another call. From someone I didn't expect. The call came from a woman named Denise. She said she worked in HR for the bank corporate level. Not Rachel's branch. Higher than that. She sounded calm, professional. But I could tell she was trying to sound more neutral than she really felt. I wanted to speak with you directly, she said. We've reviewed the internal documentation you mentioned. There's evidence your daughter accessed your application records improperly. Not just once. I didn't say anything for a while. She also emailed comments about you to coworkers. Some of the language was unprofessional. What kind of language? She referred to you as a liability and mentally unstable. She made a request to block your application under any circumstances due to what she called a pattern of behavior. My chest got tight. She also included photos of you from her home. Sleeping. Sitting at the table. In some of them, you were eating. I felt sick. Why the hell would she take those? Denise was quiet for a second. We don't know. But it's not acceptable. What happens now? We've placed her on unpaid leave while we investigate. I need to ask. Would you be willing to give a statement in person? Possibly meet with compliance officers. I didn't want to. Every part of me wanted to say no. But I said yes. The next day, I took a rideshare downtown and walked into that cold glass building with the company's name printed on the wall in fake gold letters. I told them everything. I brought the printed note. I gave them the email thread. It took over an hour. At the end, Denise handed me a check. We're not admitting fault, she said. But in recognition of the situation, we're offering this. It wasn't huge. But it was enough to cover 3 months of rent at a small one-bedroom place I'd looked at on Craigslist. I took the check. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted dignity. 2 weeks later, I heard from someone else. My neighbor back from Roanoke. An old friend. Jerry, he said, you're not gonna believe this. Rachel came by your old house. What? She asked if it was still on the market. Wanted to know if she could get it cheap. Said you were permanently moved. That hit harder than everything else. She thought I was out of the picture. She wanted my house. Not to help me get it back. She wanted to take it for herself. I didn't believe it at first. Are you sure? I asked. Positive, my neighbor said. She showed up with some guy it wasn't Drew. She asked about the taxes, liens, wanted to know if you'd defaulted fully. Said she was handling the estate. I sat in that crappy motel chair, just staring at the wall. She'd already written me off. Maybe she figured I'd crawl into a shelter somewhere and never come back. Or worse. That's what really got me. Not that she betrayed me with the loan. Not the pictures. Not the tape line across her kitchen. But that she didn't even think I was still here. That she went sniffing around my old house like she had the right to pick through my life while I was still trying to breathe. I didn't call her. Didn't yell. I just made a decision. I called the real estate agent I dealt with back when I tried to sell the house. Asked if it was still legally in my name. It was. I asked how fast I could reclaim it, fix what was overdue, and pull it off the market. He said if I paid off the back taxes and fines, they could reinstate the title under me in full. No one else had touched it. It was just sitting there empty, neglected, but still mine. I used half the bank's check to settle what I owed. Signed the documents the next day. That weekend, I took a ride back to Roanoke. The house was dusty and smelled like mildew. A few windows were cracked. The backyard was overgrown. But it was mine. And standing in the hallway, I felt something I hadn't in months, solid ground. I started patching it up myself. Bought paint. Fixed the kitchen sink. Scrubbed mold out of the bathroom tiles. Slept on the floor with a sleeping bag and an old space heater. 3 days in, Rachel called. I let it ring. She called again the next morning. Then she texted, "We need to talk. Please." I didn't reply. A week later, there was a knock on the door. I looked through the peephole. It was her. Alone. I opened the door just enough to see her face. "Dad," she said. "I didn't know you were back. Why didn't you tell me?" "You didn't know because you didn't ask." She looked tired, pale. Maybe she hadn't been sleeping. "They're suspending me," she said. "I might lose my job." I nodded. "Sounds about right." She stepped closer. "I made mistakes. But I didn't mean to hurt you like that. You took pictures of me eating, Rachel." She blinked. "I didn't think it would go that far. You showed up here trying to buy my house like I was dead." Her eyes welled up. "That's not fair." I paused, then said, "No. What's not fair is spending your whole life working for your family, then ending up on the porch like a piece of trash." She wiped her face. "Can I come in?" I looked past her, out at the street. I thought about my wife and how much she'd hate this whole thing, how ashamed she'd be. Then I said, "No." I shut the door. I didn't lock it right away, just stood there, hand on the knob, listening. She didn't knock again, just walked away. The silence after she left felt heavier than I expected. I thought I'd feel proud, like I'd stood up for myself. But all I felt was hollow. I didn't hear from her again, not for a few weeks. Then one afternoon, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name handwritten. Inside was a copy of a legal document. Power of attorney. Signed and dated 3 months ago. Rachel had filed for temporary control of my affairs during the time I was staying at her house. The forms listed me as cognitively impaired and financially incapacitated. She'd filed them with a notary, someone who worked with her at the bank. I couldn't believe what I was reading. She tried to gain legal control over my finances behind my back. While I was in her house, while I was cleaning her counters, folding her towels, obeying her damn tape line, I went straight to the county office to confirm. It was real. On record. But they hadn't finalized it. Because I hadn't signed anything. Still, it was there. She tried to take over everything I had left. That's when it hit me. The bank stuff wasn't about protecting me. The pictures weren't about concern. The tape on the floor wasn't about boundaries. She'd been building a case. Quietly. To make me look unstable. Irresponsible. Like I couldn't take care of myself. So she could take control of the little I had left. I sat on the bench outside the courthouse just staring at the paper. I thought about that day on the porch. How she hadn't even brought me a blanket. How she let her kids look me in the eye while I sat outside like a ghost. This wasn't just betrayal. This was strategy. I made copies of the documents and tucked them in a folder just in case. Then I called a lawyer. I didn't want a lawsuit. I just needed protection. The attorney, a guy named Merritt, mid-50s, practical type, looked through everything and shook his head. She was building a legal profile on you. Probably planning to get control over your assets, your house, maybe even your social security. This wasn't casual, Jerry. She was preparing for the long game. He filed a formal revocation of any pending authority and requested an investigation into the notary who'd signed off. He also helped me draft a statement saying I was fully capable of handling my own finances and always had been. I want this on record, I told him. Everywhere. A week after that, Merritt got a call from the bank's legal department. They wanted to settle quietly. They were offering me a second check. Larger this time. Enough to fix the house completely. Maybe even enough to retire without having to ask anyone for help again. But they want a non-disclosure, Merritt said. If you take the money, you can't talk about what she did. Can't mention her name. Can't say she tried to control your accounts. I stared at the paperwork for a long time. I could take it and be done. Go back to patching up the house, drink coffee on the porch, leave it all behind. But I'd be protecting her again. That's what hit me hardest. She tried to ruin me in secret. And now they wanted me to help her stay hidden. I asked Merritt if I had to answer right away. He said no. So I waited. Then, just a few days later, I saw something I didn't expect. My phone buzzed with a link. It was a post online. A message board for bank employees. Someone, an anonymous user, had posted screenshots of the flagged emails Rachel had written about me. The notes. The photos. The request to mark me as a risk. The post was titled, "Manager Abuses Access to Target Her Own Father." It was spreading fast. I didn't post it. I didn't leak anything. But someone had. And for the first time in months. I felt seen. It didn't take long after the post went up. The morning after it spread, my phone rang 6 times before noon. I didn't recognize any of the numbers. I let them go to voicemail. Then Merritt called. "Don't talk to anyone. They're scrambling. The bank." He sighed. "Your daughter and her legal team. She's probably going to lose her job permanently. And she might be facing criminal penalties for fraud and misuse of client records." I didn't say anything. I was watching the front yard through the screen door. The grass was starting to come back. Slowly. "Jerry," Merritt said, quieter now. "This might get messy, eh?" Later that day, Rachel showed up again. She parked on the street this time. Didn't even try the driveway. I watched her walk up, slower than before. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. Eyes swollen like she'd been crying for days. I opened the door but didn't say a word. She held out her phone. "You saw it?" I nodded. "They're doing an inquiry. They might press charges." I stayed quiet. "I know you didn't leak it. But you told someone. And now my life is ruined." "You tried to take mine," I said, plain and flat. Her mouth opened, then closed. She had nothing. "You know what I kept thinking?" I asked. "That night on the porch while y'all were eating inside. I sat there thinking how far I'd fallen. How useless I must have become. But I wasn't useless. I was just in your way." Her eyes dropped to the floor. "I thought I could manage it," she whispered. "Control the damage. Make it easier on all of us." "You mean on you?" She didn't deny it. Then she said something that stuck with me. "You were always the steady one. I didn't think you'd fight back." I let the screen door close between us. I didn't slam it. Just closed it. Slow and final. She stood there for a minute, then walked away. I sat down and opened the settlement papers again. And I just stared at that one line, non-disclosure required. I didn't sign the papers. I let the offer sit there until it expired. I fixed the house with what I had slowly on my own. Some nights I sleep okay. Others I hear her voice in my head telling me I was always the steady one. Like that's why she thought I wouldn't notice her pulling the floor out from under me. I haven't spoken to her since. And I probably won't. But every time I pass a kitchen light left on, I still reach for the switch without thinking. I guess part of me's still afraid someone's watching. Waiting to decide if I get to stay.